Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway. Today I'm really excited because I have yet another really affordable Hornby DCC sound locomotive to unbox and review for you. So, in my opinion, there is nothing better for beginners to give them the model railway bug than TTS sound. It's really affordable and it makes the models an awful lot more fun. So I picked up yet another, it is this, the Hornby Tornado with TTS sound. Now, we've seen Tornadoes before, of course, they're really good models, but I've never tried a TTS sound one before. Now, my only major grievance with these that stopped me really recommending the Hornby Tornadoes to people was the fact that traditionally the DC versions did not have any tender pickups. Well, of course, as a TTS locomotive, DCC fitted, the decoder is in the tender, which means there is a chance that this one will have tender pickups, in which case I might be able to recommend this much more wholeheartedly. They're really quite inexpensive. The RRP, the full price that Hornby charge for this is £135.99, which isn't too bad when you think the decoder costs about 30 odd, so you know we're talking just over £100 for the Loco. And as usual, the retailers do sell these a little bit more cheaply. The going rate is around 120 quid, a little bit over that. If I can find an affiliate link, I will put one down below for you so you can pick them up. But generally speaking, for a big Pacific, that is a good price, I think, isn't it? Provided the quality's all right, of course. So let's find out together. Let's get this out and see what the Hornby TTS Sound Tornado is like. So, one of the main reasons I wanted to pick up this particular A1 was because of the livery. Now, I would probably call this, what do you reckon, X LNER green, something like that, which is interesting because the original A1s, not Tornado of course, the actual peppercorn ones, they were introduced around the time of nationalisation, 1948, which is where LNER obviously then became BR. So this livery presumably represents a time when they were still wearing the LNER colours, of course, but they had their tender converted to, say, British Railways. So this is pretty much how they would have looked in the early days, assuming, of course, this is a factual livery and it's not just something Hornby's dreamt up. But either way, I really do like it. Let me show you the end of the box then. So this version that I've got is R3663 TTS. It's a BR Peppercorn Class A1 Tornado number 60163 with sound. And yes, as you can see there, this does have the TTS sound on board, which is like a real budget DCC sound system, but generally speaking, it works really well for the price. It's a railroad loco, so obviously the level of detail is going to be quite basic, although as we've seen in the past, the Hornby Tornadoes aren't too bad, so we'll see how that goes. For now though, there's not an awful lot to see on the box, so we will get this one open and see what this one is like. Fingers crossed for the tender pickups, that would be fantastic. Because one of the main problems I have with my existing Tornadoes, my Hornby A1s, is the fact that they cut out quite a lot on points because they don't have any pickups in the tender. Hornby might have unwittingly fixed that problem by fitting this with tender pickups, and that is of course assuming I can get the box open to find out. Quite a tight fit this one. Oh, okay, no, got it. Right, so there's the Loco, looking very nice. I'll expose that for you in just a second. First things first though, let's take a look at some of the paperwork. We'll look at the maintenance instructions first of all. So here we go for the Class A1 Tornado. There's a little bit about lubrication, fitting accessories, which is interesting. It shows fitting sort of lamps and things. Does the railroad version come with lamps, or is that just the Railways one? Of course, they did release this model with an updated paint job into the Railways range, which was an interesting choice, in my opinion. Body removal, either way. DCC sound, yes, it does show the two versions there. Mine has the socket in the tender. The non-TTS versions have the socket in the Loco, of course, which is a bit different. Yeah, that seems to cover all bases. A little bit about brake rods. Does this model have brake rods? We'll find out. It should be interesting. And then the other piece of documentation is, of course, for the TTS decoder. This is for the BR462 Tornado. It does have its own manual then. I'd wondered whether they'd used the sort of Gresley A4 or Flying Scotsman chips, but no, apparently not. Okay, so there is a list of the different sound effects. Among other things, of course, it's worth reading through these brochures if you're experiencing TTS for the first time. But yeah, it's all reasonably straightforward, of course, once you've grasped how the thing works. Okay, let's just explore the pack then. Right, so on the back we do have a little bit of a detail bag. I almost missed it, not quite. I'm not seeing lamps in there, although we do have the brake rigging that the instructions promised, and also some nicely painted, actually, vacuum pipes, which is really good. I will take those back to the packaging, just for safekeeping, of course. But no, that's a nice inclusion. It's nice. Some railroad locos don't always have the brake rigging, which is quite good, quite good. Right, let me just grab my knife then, and we'll get the pack open. Go on then, Rusty. I've got another job for you. Here we go. Right, try not to cut off my thumb as I'm doing this. I don't think that would be nice for you guys to watch. Or maybe it would, don't know. Some of you are a bit sadistic, aren't you, I suppose? No, not really. Okay, that took a turn for the bizarre for a second there. Anyway, we're in. Okay, shall I try and lift this out then? I'll probably try and push it out with the holes at the back just so that I don't mess the thing up. Okay, let's take a look at this now. I'm interested to see how this livery actually looks in the flesh. And there we go. As you can see, a nice looking model. To say that it's so cheap, I mean, if you pay 120 odd for this, taking away the cost of the decoder, you're only paying about 90 quid for the Loco and tender, which really isn't too bad, is it? Let's have a look underneath then. You know what? We do have tender pickups. Fantastic. So this is going to run well as well, presumably, which is always nice, isn't it? Yeah, do you know what? On first glance, the level of detail does not look too bad on this for a Hornby Railroad Loco. Very, very pleased with this so far. So with that, we'll give you a little history of the A1s and, of course, Tornado herself. If you don't know the story of that, it's quite interesting. And after that, we'll take a close look at some of the details. So the Peppercorn Class A1 then, while it did have the same classification as the Gresley A1, it was in fact a completely different design altogether. They were introduced the same year as nationalisation occurred, as I've already said, in 1948 to the design of Arthur Peppercorn. At this time, the demand for stronger and faster locomotives was as great as ever, and the ageing Gresley A3 locomotives were starting to struggle with the task by that point. As a result, a new class of A1 was ordered. Edward Thompson had actually initiated the new design during the LNER days, the late LNER days, but Peppercorn is widely considered to be the chief designer, and the order wasn't completed until after nationalisation occurred. The product was a powerful three-cylinder locomotive capable of hauling heavy 15-coach trains at speeds of up to 70 miles per hour, which is pretty impressive, and 49 Peppercorn A1 locomotives were produced in total, but just 17 years later the entire class had been withdrawn and scrapped to make way for the new diesels, of course, and although none of the originals did survive, which is a great shame and quite a waste as well, a brand new Peppercorn A1 was completed in 2008, as I'm sure you know, and she was named Tornado, as you can see here. This was based on the Peppercorn design, but it also featured some improvements on it. Okay, so there it is then, the Hornby Railroad Tornado up close and personal for you, and doesn't this just look wonderful? I think for the money, this is absolutely awesome. It really, really is. First things first though, it's incredibly heavy, really heavy. I weighed this in at 429 grams, which makes it one of the heaviest steam locos in my fleet. The only ones that I've measured so far this year that were heavier were the Hornby Princess, which was obviously unusually heavy, and the Garrett, which was completely different and double the size. Yeah, this is very, very heavy. The level of detail is also really good. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but the only letdown with this, and it's pretty obvious, is of course the livery, particularly the lining on the tender. Yeah, unfortunately it is the basic and very simplified version of the LNER style lining. Now it's completely reasonable that they should have simplified this. It's a railroad loco and it's not very expensive, so it's fair enough. Although on other railroad locos, such as the P2 for instance, or maybe the Dean single, we have seen better lining on railroad locos in the past. And the proper banding with a little bit more finesse to it would have been a really nice bonus on this model, but it's not a big issue. Otherwise though, the decoration isn't too bad, if a little bit basic. The Tornado nameplates on the smoke deflectors, for example, really, really nicely printed. They're not etched or anything. Other versions of this model in the Railways range have come with etched nameplates. Not this one, sadly. And as you can see, the paintwork on the side of the cab is very, very basic. There's nothing in the way of lining or anything. And the lettering, or numbering really, is quite basic, as you can tell. And we have the route availability on there as well. So yeah, the paintwork is really quite basic, it must be said. However, the level of detail, in my opinion, is above and beyond what you'd expect from a railroad loco. First of all, there's a lot of die cast. The body, unfortunately, is mainly plastic, but we do have a really, really heavy chassis which extends down to the rear pony truck. So this whole area at the back here is all heavy metal, and it just feels wonderful in the hands. It really does. Most railroad locos have sort of moulded handrails and that sort of thing. Not so with this one. The handrails on the side there are separately fitted, which look really good. And the same thing goes with the smoke box. As you can see, we do have a separately fitted handrail on there as well, although unfortunately it is just a plastic one, so it's a little bit on the flimsy side. Sure enough though, we do have separately fitted lamps down there over the buffer beam, which is amazing. We also have metal buffers, which are not sprung, unfortunately. Bit of a shame that, but not a huge deal, of course, for a railroad loco. Around that sort of area, we do have quite a few nice moulded details. As you can see, we have the sort of head of the middle cylinder there, which looks good, and things such as the smoke box dart, which are just moulded, as I say, but not too bad, in my opinion. A few really nice touches are the separately fitted reversing rod here, which is just made of plastic, but at least it's separately painted and stands out quite nicely. We do have separately fitted metal whistles. That is wonderful. Some railways locos don't have that, which is really cool. And then we also have what appears to be a little whistle poking out the front of the cab there. A really finely moulded piece, that, to say that this is a railroad loco. The cab area is not bad either. As you can see, we do have glazed windows, which are really nice, pre-fitted of course. The top of the cab's pretty well detailed as well. You can see a lot of riveted detail, and the same is true really for the bulk of the model. Inside the cab, none of the detail is painted, which is a little bit of a shame, but completely expected for a railroad loco. The moulded detail inside there, though, is really quite good. One real nice touch of finesse that this model has is the covered axles. As you can see, the middle of each wheel has been painted green, and there are some really expensive models out there in this hobby which have worse looking axles than this. Really quite an impressive touch that on quite an inexpensive model. The loco and tender are coupled at quite some distance, which doesn't look terribly realistic, and there's no tender full plate to help bridge the gap or anything like that. Although you do have the option for close coupling, which makes the thing look much, much better. You can do that by adjusting the screws on the drawbar and using a different hole on it. Although if you do that, the loco will no longer be able to manage sort of, I think, anything below third radius curves, possibly even third radius, it won't manage. So it's not really recommended, but if you've got a super realistic layout with big wide sweeping curves, you may be able to make use of that. The tender itself is similar in detail really to the loco. You can see the lining is very slightly better. It's not the full sort of white and black banding, but it does look better than the loco. The British Railways lettering is about the same as it was on the loco, pretty basic, but it does the job. The coal load in the top is not removable, unfortunately, although it is reasonably fine and realistic looking. There's a fair amount of moulded underframe detail, which looks reasonably good, as you can see. And around the back, while there is quite a lot of detail, most of them are just moulded, including the lamps, which haven't been painted or anything like that, which means that they don't really stand out that well. We do have another reasonably realistic buffer beam, as well as a pre-fitted NEM coupling, which is quite nice, obviously. There's a bit of flexibility there. So overall, yeah, the level of detail is pretty good. One thing I didn't mention is the valve gear and coupling rods. Really fine for a railroad loco. Probably one of the best railroad running gears I've ever seen. So that has to be a plus, doesn't it? Yeah, overall, for the money, you can't go wrong with this. And I'm hoping the performance will be quite good, because obviously it does have the tender pickups. And the mechanism, while not being 100% perfect, is pretty good for what you pay. So let's get to that then and see how it runs. Okay, so she is down onto the track, ready for her first ever test. I've got the DCC controller ready to go, so we'll get to that in just a second. First of all though, a little word about the mechanism. It's really, really good in this one. As I've already said, it's got tender pickups and pickups on all the driving wheels. The driving wheels sit in proper turned metal bearings, no horrible square bearings or anything like that. We've got the proper job on here. The only downside really is that we've only got a 3-pole motor inside this one, which is a little bit of a shame. That's the only thing that lets the mechanism down, unfortunately. The good news is though that you can pretty easily replace the motor with a 5-pole one if you can find one that fits. Hornby do use a standard size of motor in this loco, which means it is quite easily done. Anyway, let's try some sounds then, see what this sounds like. We've got a chime whistle first of all. You ready for that one? Wow, now that is some, I hope that comes across. That just sounds fantastic to say this is TTS. Yeah, really not too bad that. Let's have a few more. Screech whistle. Yeah, I tell you what, the sound sounds good from this. Long chime. Yeah, not bad. Short screech. Yeah, a short chime. Yeah, it ain't bad actually, I must say, not bad at all. Okay, let's enable the sound function then so that the sound will be automatic. There we go. Yeah, I must say the quality's great. It's got a bit of bass to it for a change, which is quite good. Right, shall we see if it can do a crawl then? Let me see if I can do this. It's always a bit difficult getting the Locos to crawl on Railmaster, but I will do my best. Right, so bear in mind the Loco has not yet been run-in, so it's not quite fair to pass any judgment at the moment, but we'll see how it goes. I've set it to 4, and I'm not seeing any action yet. 5. There we go. Wow. So I've not managed to get it dreadfully slow, but that is pretty smooth. Very, very smooth in fact. Let's go backwards. It sounds good as well. Yeah, do you know what? For a 3-pole motor, that is perfectly good, isn't it? How controlled is that? Incredibly controlled. Very smooth. Can it go any slower than that? 4 perhaps? Can we get it to 4? Don't think so. I can try. Hang on. No, I think 5 is the slowest this thing can do. Well, I've set that to 4 now, and that still seems to be going. Is it? Yeah, no, it won't go any slower than that. Anyway, that's pretty good though, isn't it? That is really quite good. Bit faster. Oh, do you know what, folks? This runs better than most Locos I own. I don't know whether it's just the decoder is particularly good or what, but look at how smooth that is. That is incredibly good. Is it like that right the way up to the higher speeds? Let's try it at about 40 odd miles an hour, shall we? 37 I've set it to. Oh, that is really quite good. Really good. That runs better than the Tornadoes I've had in the past, actually. Right, I'm going to send it off forwards then, actually. Let's have a whistle. And let's see how it gets on around the room, shall we? Wow. I have to say that performance from a 3-pole motor is amazing. That crawl and just the smoothness of the performance in general is really unexpected. Yeah, I honestly would not bother trying to replace that motor. It's fine as it is. Really good. More than fine. So I will leave that to run in for a time then at sort of medium speed, bit in forwards, bit in reverse, and then we'll come back, try the crawl again, although it can't be improved upon. It really is that great. And then I'll couple her up to some coaches and see how she hauls. Very impressive stuff, Hornby. Very, very good. Okay, so that was a big success. Whoops, don't want it to couple to my coaches right now. So yeah, it was very, very sure-footed, no derailments, the motor noise has quietened over time, and the TTS sound is fantastic as well. It sounds brilliant. Okay, well, let's just check it hasn't lost that fantastic ability to crawl then. Let's see if I can get it nice and slow. I just want to see it do it again, to be honest. That is really, really good. I wish it was DC so that I could actually try and slow it down a bit further on my DC controllers, but as it is, it's really, really good. By the way, you can't run these on DC. The TTS Locos do not work on DC, unfortunately, at least not on my controllers. So only buy one of these, obviously, if you do have DCC. So there we go. Yeah, that is really, really good. Performance, a massive, massive thumbs up. I've set up quite a big rake of coaches then. I believe there are 8, I think, ex-LNA Arctiques there, which do look lovely. So we'll get her coupled up to those and see what sort of puller she is. I have measured 0.54 newtons of pulling force on the drawbar of the tender, which is really quite good. That should be enough to haul 32 coaches on straight and level track, which is very impressive. Anyway, into reverse. Here we go. Have a quick whistle. Here we go. And of course, unlike my other Tornadoes from Hornby, this does not cut out on the express points or anything. It's perfectly, perfectly reliable. Okay, there we go. I'll tell you what, even though the lining is basic on this one, it just looks beautiful, doesn't it? It really does. Okay, let's go for an express run then, shall we? Let's have that beautiful, let's have the long chime. Let's do that. Oh, yes. And here we go. Okay, because it's so heavy, I've no doubt it will manage that without any problems whatsoever. So there we go, beautiful train of XLNE RTs. And then on the middle line, just to demonstrate how good the value for money on this Loco really is, I have my Hornby Railways Tornado, which is the same model, it just has a slightly enhanced livery. And would you believe this one cost me just £10 less than the TTS one did, which means for that price it doesn't have any TTS, it doesn't have the decoder, it's DC, and it doesn't even have any tender pickups. To me, the TTS version is astonishing value for money, or it offers astonishing value for money. And this one's not a great runner because its motor's on the way out, so I'll replace that at some point, but once it gets going, it is fine. And today's theme is Hornby Pacifics, so on the inside line I have Gadwell, which is another one of Hornby's LNER Pacifics, of course. Incidentally, there are some other Pacifics for you to spot elsewhere on the layout, so do see which ones you can spot, and there is one that is not a Hornby, so see if you can let me know down in the comments which one that was. For now though, let's catch up with Tornado and see if she's managed to haul all those coaches up Gordon's Hill. Alright, let's see how this goes then. Got to say, it looks very smart, doesn't it? Particularly with a nice passenger train. Look at that, hauling maximum speed there, no slowdowns whatsoever. Incredibly powerful model, wonderful performer, really, really good. So let me know folks, which would you rather buy? We have the railroad one with the better value for money but less detail, and then the railways one, which is obviously much more expensive but it does have better paintwork. Let me know in the poll which one you would choose. I'd be interested to see which one wins. So here are some of my ratings then for what is in my opinion a very, very impressive model, the A1 Tornado from Hornby. Now the level of detail was better than expected, I would say, for a Hornby Railroad model, particularly where the moulded and separately fitted parts were concerned. However, certain elements of it obviously were not super detailed, such as, for example, the livery. So I have given it a middle of the road 3-star. It is better than expected though, as I say, for a railroad Loco. The performance though is where this really, really shines. It's only running a 3-pole motor of course, but the slow speed is excellent. Beautifully smooth, reasonably quiet as well. Really, really good performer. I've given it 5 stars, very, very good. The pulling power is excellent as well because it's so heavy. I measured a pulling force of 0.54 newtons, which on straight and level track should be enough for this Loco to haul around 32 coaches, which is pretty phenomenal actually for a Hornby Railroad one. So that's very good. The mechanism, similarly, really, really good. It has tender pickups now, which is a big plus. Proper bearings in the wheel set, really nicely designed mechanism. The only thing that lets that down is the 3-pole motor. It is a shame about that, and I have knocked off a star because of that. The quality though is fantastic. There's a lot of metalwork on the Loco, both in terms of the heavy chassis with lots of die-cast detailing, and also obviously elements such as the safety valves, which are metal as well. The build quality is excellent as well. All of the decoration is just fine, and the way that these are put together leaves nothing to be desired, which is great. Value for money then, I've given this 4 stars. I think the RRP £135.99 is obviously rather expensive, but the price you can pay at Hatton's, for instance, £122.50, is really, really good, I think, when you consider you have full TTS sound on this. Really, really quite good. Obviously, a few quid cheaper would have made this a bit better, but overall, the value is very good, I would say. Overall then, that is 8.23 out of 10, a very good score for a Hornby Railroad Loco. Into the logbook it goes then. There you have it, 5th. Just above the Bachmann E1 and below the Hornby Princess. Yep, very, very impressive overall. So there you have it. If you are looking to get started with DCC or just get started with model railways as a whole, I can highly recommend this one. Really, really good buy. And it's one that you can handle and use without really worrying about breaking it. It's got plenty of detail, but not so much that it becomes overly fragile, which is quite good, I think. Yeah, love it. I think the fact that it runs so nicely makes up for the fact that it's not terribly detailed, so I can definitely see myself running this more often. Yeah, I'm going to be looking for excuses to run it because it's that good. Yeah, love it, fantastic, much better than I expected, and I think the score is quite well deserved. Obviously quite a high score for a Railroad Loco, but as I say, yeah, I think it's warranted. So there you have it then folks, another Hornby Railroad Loco done. I thoroughly enjoyed that one actually, I'd forgotten just how good the Hornby Tornadoes were. Let me know what you thought down in the comments, do you agree, do you disagree? I'd love to know what you think. But for now folks, thanks very much for watching, thanks for your time, thanks for your company, and I will see you very soon on the next one. Alright folks, take care of yourselves.